Hey guys, welcome back to some Raid Shadow Legends. Today's video, we want to break down some of the things looking back over the last 2 weeks, making a lot of progression. As you can see with our Alice chase, we are now into getting the extra points. Very easy to finish this out on a daily basis, getting those 75 flags and making sure that we are maximizing the rewards out of here. Now, one thing I want to note is when it comes to building out a lot of these different champions and also focusing on the energy. So getting the energy, and I've noticed that a lot of players are progressing pretty fast. And the reason is a lot of them are using energy and using energy super efficiently in a couple different game modes, as well as focusing on making and utilizing all of their gems to get energy very early when it comes to this game. Something that I didn't do, being completely free to play. Energy has been kind of a slow regeneration, and I feel like there's a couple points that I really want to point out. Again, thinking about the last 2 weeks of gameplay, where we've seen some of our real big opportunities, which one of them, absolutely the gem mine. So when we started it, I wanted to build out a gem mine. I knew in production-wise that this was going to be huge, but the gem mine actually really costed us a lot of gameplay because we could have spent these gems in a lot more efficient manner, meaning going in and building out some of our champion's mastery and really farming it into food. So if you think of the sheer cost of building this out, which I believe was what, around 1,000 gems, definitely putting a lot into the gem mine, which can be the same true with the Guardian Ring. Now, I did build out the sparring pit, as you can see. A lot of gems went into here, which means I didn't have the ability to do those energy refreshes earlier, which could have made a big difference on getting all of those 6-star champions. Again, looking back, very easy to see. Long term, I feel like this is something that we would have invested in anyways, but right now we cannot farm the content that we're looking at, even thinking of like, Minotaur 15, even getting into, level 20 of some of those dungeons. Very, very hard to do when I'm putting gems into places like the gem mine and also the sparring pit. Putting all of the gems in here instead of building out those masteries and really maximizing what we can do with some of these champions. I feel like, again, this would have been a really good investment. Again, thinking back earlier, and I would choose not choosing Kale out of this one. I would have probably built out Supreme Galak. I feel like as far as a carry, putting Life Leech gear on this champion, being legendary, having the power that he does, we could have probably pushed a lot faster progression, and he is going to be the next one that I'm going to 6-star. We have really revamped some of the process that we're doing, and we are looking at building a lot more 6-star champions. And to do that, we're using, again, the utilization of our gems being used for our energy refreshes. Also, the energy refreshes that we're getting in here. Been going through and farming out of a lot of the arena, the tag arena, even looking at the Demon Lord, all of our keys we've been using, but we are lacking. And I really, truly underestimated how strong the level 60 heroes are. Now, looking at our tavern or going back into the champions, you can see right here, the power on a level 60 with 6 stars and the Ascended is around 27K. Looking here at a 50 with 5 stars completely ascended, we are at 11K power. So you can see from going from 50 to 60, how absolutely crazy this is and how much damage and how much more power they do gain. And I really focused on a lot of gear early, which again, a lot of players were kind of saying that was a mistake. Now I know I got to get some speed gear, got to do a little bit of farming, but overall going in here and building out and trying to build out sets, as you can see right here, absolutely a waste of silver. Looking back again, thinking of when we could systematically, I used a lot of silver, probably on gear that essentially I shouldn't have. And I noticed too, is when you go in here and you're sacrificing, some of this old gear like this, I mean, 3 stars, that is one we're probably going to just end up selling. Look at this. You do not get the silver back. All of the silver that you put in the upgrades absolutely does not come back. So all of these very, very low 3 stars and some of the beginning gear, again, being new to Raid, I went in here, I put a lot of silver into. We are going to see almost no return at all with this, just for leveling it up to 16. Now getting it to 8, probably pretty good, maybe even going to 12 does make a big difference early game or even getting into mid game. You want to make sure that your gear does have a couple more stars, and you're specifically looking like right here, we have speed on our boots with 5 stars. That is something we absolutely want. Now, every pair of boots should have speed. This is something we were talking about on the live stream that we're kind of looking at bigger picture is when you're looking at boots, absolutely they should have the primary stats or the priority stat on there should be speed and speed in its entirety. You can see right here, we have a relentless that has speed on there. 5 epic, pretty good right there. Also have a 5-star common speed. Again, we're looking for speed right now. We're not worried about gear. We're not worried about gear sets. We're should have really overlooked and shouldn't have built it up to the point that we did. But again, we made some mistakes when we were a little bit earlier. And now we know exactly what we're doing in here and how we're kind of building these out. And again, what we're looking for. So in here, we have this 5-star and then we have a 5-star epic. Epic gives you the ability to see it a little bit higher. I'm not sure exactly kind of how it builds out. So looking here with both of these being 5 stars, even if I go ahead and upgrade this one to 12, I believe it is going to give me the exact same. So max 40 in here. And then even looking here at our rare boots, you can see right here, max 40. So the maximums that we have on the gear are based on the stars, meaning that if you're going in for a rare piece, if you're going in for a common piece, it gives you the ability to see what other stats are on there and if it's worth building it up. So when you start looking at epic, when you start looking at legendary pieces, all of the stats are revealed. And let me grab a legendary piece. I think we have a couple on a couple different heroes. But right here, when we look at champions, when you look at the ability, and again, this is a horrible piece for our Savage set. I need another piece because defense should absolutely not be on here, but trying to focus and get on that 4-star bonus is the exact reason why we got this, which again, leveling it up a little further than we should. Absolutely need to revamp the gear that is on Alice, get her a couple more stars, build her up a little bit further, but that Supreme Galak is going to be the primary one that we're focusing on. Now in the tavern, we have been farming a lot of food, looking at the ability to upgrade ranks. We went through and built out a lot of food. We have 3 5-stars right here. Again, I feel like in the next day or two, we can probably build out a couple more 5-stars in the combination of using that sparring pit and also the energy regenerations in here, being able to build these out. Now, if you look, when we start looking at our 3-stars and our 4-stars, we have a lot in here that we have been building out. Right here's a 25, a 30. We have a 19 and 18, a couple 4-stars across the board. We wanted to build these out. And again, I'm going to use some of the sparring pit in there to build these out a little bit further in level while I'm sleeping tonight. So we can actually pop 1 or 2 more levels on there. But getting a couple of these 4-stars up to the maximum level of 40 at this point, using them as food, we should very easily be able to get these. Now, even the 3-stars, you can see we have a couple 3-stars that we're working on in here. And as we're farming them out, as we're doing summons, the exact same in here with the 1-stars going to 2-stars, just really building out the 1 and 2 stars into those 3s, using them as the sacrificial food. So food is going to be my biggest focus. Now, of course, when it comes to building these out and when it comes to the campaign itself, 13-3 is where I have been living. Again, this is a point where within Raid, I feel like I miss out on a ton of progression and a ton of content because I was not building out these champions fast enough or early enough because Kale was not strong enough, Galak was not strong enough to go through here and solo this content. So again, I feel like earlier we absolutely wasted a ton of energy going through here, which I don't want you to make the same mistake of going through here. But now we're at the point he can get through usually in about 45 seconds. So it is pretty easy to get through the content right now, being able to farm the levels on 3 additional champions over and over and over again, starting to get, again, those 2-stars to 3-stars, so on and so forth, building them up with the utilization of the sparring pit. So I feel like even having the sparring pit, I didn't make as much progression earlier that we could have and farmed up really as fast as we could have, but we're catching up. We're catching up with the levels. We're catching up with a lot of the sparring pit. And going through here again, we're going to max out all of these 2s, using a little bit more food and going through here and farming this out in the entirety, really trying to get these to 60. The game-changing difference was getting Kale to 60, adding on all of that power. And I feel like the same when we get a couple more of these champions up to 60, farming out the energy, farming out all this food, going to, again, make a really, really big difference when it comes to the speed of getting through content. And being able to push harder content is the other part. Now, we just finished the summon events, so we save all of our shards. And systematically, you have to know what events are coming up, what progression events. And I'll show you right now kind of what's coming up and what's coming down the pipeline. You have to be aware, you have to be cognizant of it, because saving rewards and saving stuff for different events. Right now, we're in the champion training event. Absolutely, I want to farm this, and I have been farming this out a lot by building up all of these champions. I feel like we still have, what, another day? We have another, 2 days in this. We should be able to make a lot more progression in here, getting to the point of getting some of these top tier items. We also have the gear advancement. Now, outside of the gear enchantment event, don't use your enchanting. Don't build gear, even if you get a good piece of gear. Again, thinking about being earlier game, don't go in here and drop a ton of resources in here just to hit these goals. I feel like it would be a lot more beneficial is using it when the event is up, then stockpiling or storing all of your silver, stockpiling all of those great gear sets until this event pops up. Then you can go ahead and use it, and really farming even Dungeon Diver right here. A lot of players will save a lot of the Dungeon Diver right here. Again, I can save energy for an extended amount of time for these next 7 hours, saving up all of my potions, saving up all of my energy in its entirety. Then when the Dungeon Diver event drops, I can start farming. So I'm going to get the champion training event going through those dungeons, as well as this one going through and farming it. So you're kind of overlapping the events that are going on. And then they also do have the tournaments. This is the other part where thinking, again, kind of bigger picture, overlapping the Dragon Tournament or the Tag Arena, or if you're farming the Sun Devil Turn Attack, if you're going through here when this event does come up or when this tournament does come up, being very competitive. Now, Tag Arena, we've been doing pretty well. We're just shy, I believe, of the 1200 right here, still in place number 2. So even with the progression that we're making going in here on a regular basis, we're still doing pretty well. I mean, I'm very happy with the progression. Again, thinking back over the last 2 weeks, there are a couple things that I would change, that I would kind of adjust, that I move around. Even we've been buying shards out of here on a regular basis, using some out of the portal and making a lot more progression out of there, as well as these rest of the rewards. So I'm going to save this one because, again, I want to wait till the next event is up. I'm going to save the one that we have in here again because we're waiting for that Dungeon Diver to go in so I can actually farm a crazy amount of content with getting all of these 3, 4s, and 5 stars all the way up to 6 stars in the tavern and just building them out in their entirety. All right, guys, I hope it really sets a little precedence and really a guide as a new player to raid, really understanding where we're using our energy, what is going to be the most beneficial, where you're kind of getting the most bang for the buck, especially when it comes to earlier raid gameplay. We're almost to 42 right now. I figure we'll be into 42 tomorrow to unlock our Altar of Souls right here. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.